What's up, guys? Today I thought it'd be fun to take a look at all the classes currently in the game and give them a little ranking for solo gameplay based on a few factors. Not just power level, because I don't just want to put warlock and ranger up here and then in a few weeks when different patches come out it all gets changed. So instead, we'll look kind of all-encompassing of their gameplay. So how strong have they been since their release? How many playstyles do they have? What build diversity looks like? That kind of thing. So I'm gonna start things off strong. Rogue, D tier, even in solo gameplay. This class is hot dog shit right now, and the reason I say that is they have one real playstyle that they can play right now, and that's ambush, hide, creep rogue, whatever. Sit in a corner, wait for somebody to walk by, two tap them. And it's not particularly fun, engaging. I don't think most rogues even enjoy the gameplay loop of it. It's just the easiest thing for them to, or the best thing for them to do. Their only other real build for solos is like the mosquito rogue, but then you're buying a bunch of throwing knives and you're just running around the map the whole time shooting. It's so boring, and they need something that helps them get back to being that assassin kind of playstyle that they want to be. I think that they should have like trickster, mosquito builds, stuff like that, but right now the game just doesn't support what they're trying to do with the rogue class, so I'm putting them down here. And not just in solos, this class is just ass right now, and it needs, in my opinion, I don't want to say buffs, because if you buff it, then all of its toxic playstyles just get amplified. I think it actually needs like a small rework on either some of the perks, some of the abilities. Like, they need something. It's really bad, really, really bad. It's just my personal opinion, and friends of mine that play Rogue will kind of agree that it's just bottom of the barrel right now. It wasn't always this way. Obviously, like when landmine rogues were a thing, when they actually could just pop out of stealth, kill you in two stabs. It was annoying, but at least they had that play style. And now, I mean, they can put on 10,000 gold worth of gear and maybe kill you in three stabs, but it's probably not happening because everybody's running tanky as shit right now. So, um, let me know what you think about rogues. Um, I think, since that's the bottom of the barrel, we should look at what I consider to kind of just have always been the best class in the game, all around. Uh, and it's fighter. Fighter is S tier for solo. And the only reason I'm gonna put it in S tier is actually just second wind. This class having, I like to refer to a triangle of class design. I bring it up a lot with friends and stuff. Basically, there's three sides to class design. There is in a PvP kind of game. There's speed, mobility, that's one. Damage output is two, and tankiness is the third. To have good class design, you want all of your classes, depending on what build they're doing, to only ever have two of these at a time. You should never have all three. And in the current form of fighter, with second wind, you are tanky as all hell if you're wearing plate. You are fast as fuck because you have sprint and other abilities that give you move speed. And your damage is through the roof if you're using longsword. They have crossbows. They're hitting like a truck. They have high strength in base. Obviously, the class can get kited out. There are drawbacks, but the main point I'm trying to make is, in most situations, I feel like as a fighter, I can maneuver my way around a fight, and that's not true with every class. But it has all three of that triangle that I was talking about. It has good build diversity. You can go high PDR with a rondo dagger and a buckler and just run at people stabbing them. You can go longsword fighter with a crossbow and plate. You could go slayer fighter, dual wielding, fast attack speed, move speed. There's so many options. They have really good perks and abilities, and a lot of their abilities getting buffed to kind of get up to the sprint and second wind power. They're really, really good right now. And they do have their drawbacks, but to me, This is kind of the strongest class in the game. The only one that can give them a run for their money, in my opinion, is Druid. Obviously, Druid's S tier. And you could argue that Druid should be in front of Fighter. You could argue the Fighter should be in front of Druid. It doesn't matter. These two are the upper echelon of class design right now, both in terms of class fantasy and power and diversity, just all the things that they can do. Both of the well, let's just move on to Druid, but the main points are these two classes can boss well, they can kill PvE easily, they can do PvP well, they have good mobility, they're tanky, they're fast, they do good damage. I would say the reason I rank Fighter higher is simply because it's easier. With Druid, it's not necessarily a hard class. I don't think any of these classes are like, super hard to play. But if you're going to compare Druid to Fighter, the Druid has to manage their spells. They have to you're shape-shifting constantly. You have to know what form you're going to shape-shift to when, how to dodge something. You have to know what animal form to go into in each fight. You have to know like all these things and balance them during a fight. It's not the hardest thing to learn, but it's not easy. But that all aside, the Druid is it's been overtuned since it launched. As a Druid main, I understand that. I think with the recent nerfs and the recent changes, it can almost get dropped down to A, but it really can't. It really can't. It's still too strong. The cooldown added to Shapeshift didn't do anything to the Shapeshifting class. The Life Bloom perk, it was helps them out because it gives them a support, so that helps them for their build diversity problem that they had before. And they can just kind of do everything. Their movement, they can get across 2 modules in a few seconds. The only other drawback to this class is that it is super gear dependent. Druid needs specific stats to make their build work. That you could say that about a lot of classes in their builds, but with Druid, you have to have a base level of strength, and then on top of the strength, you need agility if you're planning on using cat form. You need to have health, because if you ever enter cat form, you're just going to die in 2 hits. You probably want a little bit of PDR, but mostly just strength, agi, health. All the gear they want is the most expensive pieces, But they're S tier. There's no arguing it. Think just under these two in power level is Bard. Did I not put a fucking Bard on here? Cut the tape. Alright, we're back. And we have a Bard now. And we need them because they are the next in line. A tier class. I would say S tier. But they're not S tier in solos, in my opinion. They're very, very good. Very, very strong. They have all 3 of the triangle I was talking about earlier. They can have all 3 of the triangle. They don't always. But they do have good movement speed, tankiness, damage, and this is all through their buffs and their perks. The reason it's in A is because in solos, they don't have the greatest build diversity. They kind of have like one really strong build, and then one that's like strong but not good. The really strong one, obviously, like tanky, drunk bard with like the heavy gambeson. You're all buffed up. You're really tough. You deal good damage, and you move pretty quickly. The other one being like the loot. You walk in with instruments, beat people up with instruments. High roller doesn't really work that well. It's not that strong, but in normals, it's really good. But they do fall short of the fighter and druid because they don't actually have a way to heal themselves. If they ever get into a bad engagement and they take damage, they have to leave. They actually have to rely on potions and bandages and stuff like that alone. They don't get the extra heals like second wind, druid healing. They don't get that stuff. So they do have a drawback. It's kind of hard to catch these guys if they're good at what they do. They're usually a mosquito serve bow bastard, and then the moment you finally do catch them, they just hit you with the rapier a couple times. Very strong class, very good at everything. Good at PvE, good in PvP, kills bosses very well, traverses maps very well. Would be S tier, I think, if it wasn't solos. It's definitely S tier in duo trio. There's no denying that. But you know, that's pretty much it for Bard. I don't think I have anything else on my notes. So, where do we go from here? This is where I kind of don't know exactly where to put. These are the only ones I know for sure. From here on, I'm kind of winging it. But I'll just kind of give my take on these things, and we'll go from there. I think the next strongest class for sure is Warlock, and not just currently, but these guys have always been pretty good. The life drain kiting Warlock is so annoying to deal with. If they have good move speed and they're not bad at the game, they're just cursing you, running across the map. You're like burning through your heals trying to catch these bastards. Currently, obviously, they're S tier because of the all ats on their Soul Collector perk. They have amazing build diversity. Even in solos, you could go the plate Warlock, you could go plate Demon Warlock, you could go Spellcaster Warlock, you could go no Demon Melee Warlock. Bach is doing way too much fucking damage right now. But that's just currently. But even then, Bach's always been pretty good as an anti-healing solution. This class does really well. It does bosses super well, PvE well, PvP well. There's nothing it can't really do. And it has good builds. And the class fantasy aspect is also really good. Because, like, when you are the Bach Warlock, and you're kind of like, you know, cursing people as they walk into you, you hit Bach, you really do feel like that melee, you know, whatever you want to call it, like the melee wizard kind of deal where you're just whacking them with a falchion. You do like, you know, 150 damage if you're full gear. Maybe not that much, but you do a shit ton of damage full gear. It's crazy. It's a really good class. Amazing build diversity, really strong. My next option is cleric. And I don't know if they're A or B. In solos, I think B. I think because their build diversity lacks in solos. The most you'll see is the Smite Divine Protection Clerics that are Iron Man. Really strong inside of their buffs, those two buffs, but outside of them, they're not that great. And then outside of that, it's just Judgment Smite, which is like if you dodge the judge and you don't let them hit you while their smite is active, you know. They're good into like if someone melees, if like a fighter or barbarian walks into them while they have their buffs up, they're good. But outside of that, they're pretty strong. They're pretty weak, I mean. They don't kill bosses particularly quickly. They don't get around the map. They're very slow. They don't get around the map particularly well. Their gear is kind of expensive because it's really weird stats. They need like health and tankiness and melee damage, but they also need like spell damage for smites. It's like they're kind of in this weird place, but this is all, again, remember, all of this is just for solos. So this class obviously excels outside of solo gameplay. But in solo, they're just kind of underwhelming. But I don't think they were ever meant to be very good in solo. Still not as terrible as Rogue. Ranger. Currently, probably S. But over the course of the game, A. Ranger really excels in kiting and poking you out. Backstep is incredibly annoying. They do so much fucking damage currently, and they've kind of always done high damage. But the, like, dealing with a good ranger that's hitting their shots on you while you're trying to get to them, and then they triple shot you, you finally get in to close the distance, they backstep. You can never really catch a ranger that's in, like, the same gear bracket as you if they are playing it properly. But in solos, if you catch that ranger without his backstep, or you catch him just at all, he kind of just falls over. They're very weak, very fragile, but this class has the option to just one-tap you. And it kind of doesn't matter what class you are or how you build. If you're in high roller, high gear, and they have a windlass, and they hit their windlass headshot, and then, instantly swap to bow, they probably only have to hit you one more time to kill you. And it doesn't matter. Like, you could build full fucking health, whatever. Like, they just do so much. But that's kind of a current problem, not necessarily a like not through the whole life of the game have they been this way, but they've always had high damage builds and they've always been really strong. Also, they have shotgun, so if they do feel like melees are running the meta and they're going to run into a lot, they can run shotgun, which is a really big threat for melees. They have a lot of options and they have a lot of power. Their class fantasy is great and they can kind of do everything well. Bossing, PvE, PvP, it's all good. But it does suffer from, once it's caught, it's screwed. And there's nothing, like, a barbarian hits Achilles on you and you're out of backsteps, you're dead. A fighter gets close enough to sprint, hits you with his longsword twice, probably dead. So that's why it's A. I think the main thing is, like, to be an S tier, you have to have all three of the triangle and you have to be able to heal yourself. And these classes don't have one of the triangles. So, like, Ranger doesn't have tankiness. For the most part, Warlock doesn't. Some of the builds do, but then the damage is lower or the speed is lower, so it trades. And Bard has to maintain buffs constantly to have the triangle. So that's where we're at. Speaking of classes that abuse the triangle, Barbarian. I'm going to put them in A, but I'm going to put them in high A under the Bard. There's a few reasons for this. I was a big Barbarian hater for a long time. And I still am tired of fighting this fucking class in every single raid. I wish that it wasn't in every single raid. But it does have very big drawbacks. It doesn't have any access to real ranged weapons. It has Francesca's, but that's just Francesca's. They're easy to dodge. And the reason that they're so high in A is because they have all three of the triangle. You can have a barbarian that is tanky, that deals high damage, and is very fast. They can't heal themselves per se, but they get Potion Chugger. They're all running, not all, but most of them are running Potion Chugger. Some are running Morale Boost. Maybe not in solos, but they have access to healing perks. They just might. Oh, and Vampiric Embrace, right, or whatever it's called. They have, or Blood Exchange. They have access to self-healing, which is why they're so high in A. In fact, that might even put them higher than Bard, but I think Bard kind of edges them out because they've always been strong and they boss a little bit better. But the obvious drawback to Barb, they get kited. You can, if you can't catch somebody in your rage window, if you miss your Achilles, you kind of just can't catch wizards, sorks, unless you have Iron Will. You can't really catch some of these classes. But you do have Iron Will, which helps you against that, but it's an entire perk. And then if you're running that and you don't see a single caster the whole fight, or the whole raid, you kind of feel like you wasted a perk. So it has its drawbacks. It's very strong, and it's, for how strong it is, maybe it's a little too powerful for how easy the class is. This class, you just look up a build, put a felling axe or a hatchet on or a zwei, and you walk at people, press rage, and mouse one. There's really no... The hardest part of this class is landing Achilles if you're running Achilles. That is the hardest part. And outside of that, oh, and then not just Wing all the time. That's kind of hard on this class. But if you can avoid those things, this class is so powerful. I think, obviously, like I said, it gets kited. It has its drawbacks, but still, very good class. It's been, again, all in solos. Let's do Wizard next, because Wizard is in a... It's hard to say where Wizard goes, because I want it in B. But it just kind of sucks. And it sucks because of this class. This, whoops. Well, I guess he's here now. We'll just do this. I'm gonna spoil it. Wizard is C. Sorcerer is low A, high B. That's kind of like where I'm at. And let me work through this in my brain real quick. Wizard is weak right now. Their gear is really expensive to have good gear. Um, if you're a spellcasting wizard, you're a dollar general sorcerer. If let me look at my notes. My brain's not working. Um, it can be really good, but it's hard to play. It's not easy to maintain all those, like, remember all your spells, remember how to use them all, remember, like, what you want to use against who, and it's not easy to hit them either. Like, every single spell that a wizard has is aimed, pretty sure, and you have to be hitting, like, almost every single one in an engagement, or you kind of just won't kill. And it's and then that's if you're a caster. If you're not a caster, you're running the bonk build, which is their strongest build by far right now. And the bonk build is is a melee wizard. It's what the warlock wants to be, but it's just a wizard igniting his staff or his dagger and running you down with arcane shield or whatever the fuck it's called. Um, does not it is good at clearing PvE. Wow, stutter. It's good at clearing PvE, but it has to sit down constantly if it's using spells. So it gets slowed down moving around the map. Their bossing isn't great, not bad, but not great. PvP is good again, but it's really hard. Um, and it just kind of gets outshined by the other casters in the game now. And that's, I feel like, mostly because of them introducing the sorcerer now. Because the sorcerer, being a lot stronger than the wizard, actually, it's still hard, and it has no build diversity at all. But a lot of its skills are a lot easier to hit. Like, it's really easy to lightning bolt somebody and then wind burst them away when they get close to you. If melees get close to you, you've been poking them out, you lightning shield, and they kind of can't contest you. Maybe they can if you haven't hurt them at all. Elemental Bolt is hitting like for 120 on a headshot. Not easy to hit, but when it does, it fucking hits. You have great zone control, great utility. You keep people away from the team, well, away from yourself because this is solos, and it has good damage and good kiteability. But it falls apart because it, ever since the nerfs, they just don't deal a lot of damage without a lot of gear. And it is like you need something like 7, 8 true magic damage and a bunch of and like 55 to 60% magic power and some move speed and some health. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really expensive and really like a lot to make this class strong. And then the spellbook version is pretty underwhelming. You use the spellbook and you get the increased magic damage, but it just doesn't do that much more, and it just kind of feels like, you know, you're just like spamming spells, and people can kind of, a lot of the time, just like a potion chugger barbarian with Iron Will just hit a potion and walk at you. It's like, I'm lightning bolting him, he's got Iron Will, can't fucking push him away. It's like, you know, it doesn't do very well against most of the other classes in head to head, but if it has like the distance to play with at the start of the fight and they hit every spell, they're extremely, extremely strong. And I don't think, looking at this list, I don't think I would change anything. But I am interested to see what everybody else thinks. This was just like a quick, off the top of my head kind of thing I thought about doing because I would love to look back when the game full launches and see what other people think. But again, this is a solo tier list. We'll lock this in. A solo tier list. Not just based on power, but based on class fantasy, how strong they've been throughout the build diversity options. I would say how fun they are to play, but that's subjective. It's not like You know, that's different for everybody. I could give you my opinion, but I'm trying to like give a reference for people that are like looking into the other classes of where, you know, they would think. I don't even know what I'm just yapping. But if you enjoyed, hit me with a like, a subscribe, hang around to see what else we yap about. I want to do this for duos and trios too, but the problem with trios is I don't really play them often, so I don't think I am in a position to do that. But I'm gonna keep playing some trios and see if I can get a good enough basis to yap with. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Disagree? Am I an idiot? Is this cope? Uh, let me know. Have a good day.